and welcome to RTD's English News Edition. Here are our major stories. Consultation meeting between the head of state and the main security as well as the armed forces officials took place today at the presidential palace. In Saudi Arabia, Riyadh announces the launch of its first communications satellite. Thank you for being with us. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, held today with the officials in charge of the various army forces and security of our country a meeting on the process of discussions and consultations initiated with the forces of the nation. This audience counts the new will of the President of the Republic, who, for the purpose of wide, inclusive and consensual consultation on the biggest challenges which poses today to our country, wishes to consult with all the public and private leaders of our society. It is therefore a new addition in redefining at the highest level of the Djibouti state in terms of the approach and exercise of power, and is likely to anchor our society more in democratic practice. That is why the head of state has dedicated his audience today with the army forces and security to the identification of new challenges that are added to the traditional missions that were theirs. The Minister of Defense, Ali Hassan Bahdon, took part in this hearing and note also the presence of the meeting of the Chief of General Staff of the Djiboutian Army Forces, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, Chief of the Defense Staff and Chief of the Staff of the Republican Guard, the National Gendarmerie, National Police, Guard Sites and Civil Coast Guards and Civil Protections. The head of National Security, Mr. Hassan Said Khairi, also attended this meeting. It is worth remembering that the President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, last Wednesday held a dialogue of similar consultation with the chief officials of the various political parties in Djibouti, majority and opposition as well. The President of the Republic, Supreme Chief of the Army, has in his speech wished a good year to the several parties. He recalled that the Army is the backbone of the nation. Let's listen to him.
Vous êtes des institutions républicaines par votre recrutement.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to address you today the various defense and security corps you represent. And at the beginning of this year, through you, I would like to wish for all the best the men and women who make up our defense and security. You are the institutions of the Republic, but you defend also not only the Republic, but its value. This dual responsibility is not felt as a burden in your rank. Your mission is not a simple task. You are on all fronts. You are in Somalia, you're fighting terrorism. You are the one trying to help our Somali brothers and sisters in the process of rebuilding their state. You are in Dumera, who you defend us with courage against foreign aggressions. Your commitment to peace and security in the world has led you to Haiti, Central Africa and Ivory Coast. Wherever you have been and wherever you are, you carry a message of peace and reconciliation. You are carrying this message on behalf of our people, in their name, but also in the name of their sovereignty. That is why Djiboutians all recognize themselves in your work and duties. Your courage, loyalty, and sense of honor are the ingredients of patriotism that underlies our unity in the Republic, beyond our individual trajectories, regional appearances, and even our partisan difference. It is this specificity that makes you a great family, where the feelings of being embedded in the soul of the nation. This feeling, ladies and gentlemen, you forge every day in contact with the reality, and often at the risk of your lives, you have integrated this truth that connects you to each other.
Also in his speech, the head of state highlighted the new threats that the world knows through the internet and new technologies, particularly cyber attacks, as a global issue and its impact on security.
Ladies and gentlemen, the safety of our citizens is priceless because it's what's fueled the stability of our state. This stability is an exception in the region, but it is also from the security of our fellow citizens that our country's economic growth and development derives. That is why in a world where physical and conventional landmarks are extended, blurred, or even competed with by virtual and digital data, the concept of security must adapt and be equipped to face these new type of threats. Today, national security issues are multidimensional, because in addition to conventional threats, there are also other environmental and economic threats. In addition to conventional methods, there are others, all the possibilities of nuisances that can be created by the revolutions of new technologies. This can affect our national cohesion and our coexistence when manipulated social network stir up and encourage community fractures. This may affect our institutions or our economy through hacking, because at a time when the internet is becoming a security issue, your mission is also to integrate these new parameters and anticipate all the eventualities of cyber attack and cybercrime. Thank you very much.
At the end of the audience, the Minister of Defense in charge of relations with the Parliament, Mr. Ali Hassan Bahdon, who spoke to the press, spoke of the purpose of this meeting. He said that this meeting comes in the framework of the head of state's wishes of the new year. He sent his wishes to the forces of the order, their families, and the whole nation. He also wanted to recall the strong role of defense security in our country. Continued the Minister of Defense. You know very well that the security of defense is one of the pillars of the Republic, so they are held not only to play the defense role of securing the territory, but also to accompany the people when needed. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and Government spokesman Mahmoud Ali Yusuf met today in the afternoon the Kenyan Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Monica Juma. Djibouti's head of diplomacy welcomed his Kenyan counterpart and the delegation accompanying her. For her part, Kenya's Minister of Foreign Affairs expressed her gratitude for the warm welcome she received. She also thanked the government of the Republic of Djibouti for condemning the recent terrorist attack in Kenya. Discussions took place in cordial atmosphere and focused on bilateral relations between the two countries, as well as the ways to further develop them, particularly in the field of education, tourism, and trade. A strong Somali delegation headed by the President of the Assembly, Mohammed Mursal Sheikh Abdurrahman, had a guided tour of the country's various port facilities, starting with the container terminal at the port of Djibouti, the Raleigh Container Terminal, via the international free zone of PK-23. Accompanied by his Djiboutian counterpart, Mr. Mohammed Ali Hamad, this tour was organized by the President of the Ports Authorities and Free Zones, Mr. Abu Bakr Umar Haddi. This delegation, led by the Somali Speaker of the Assembly, visited successively the Durali Port Container Terminal, the Durali Multipurpose Port, and finally the International Free Zone at PK-23. A meeting on the preparation of 2020 Doing Business ranking evaluation took part today at the People's Palace, and it was chaired by the Minister for the Presidency in charge of investment in partnership with the World Bank, and more. Let's hear it from Tariq Adnan.
Part of the preparation of the evaluation for Doing Business 2020 ranking, the Minister for the Presidency in charge of investment in partnership with the World Bank today organized a meeting at the People's Palace. This meeting saw the participation of the ministers whose departments are concerned and their collaborators. The Minister of Justice, the Budget, the Deputy Managers for Trade and Housing, and the resident representative of the World Bank are quoted. The meeting also invited the Mayor of Djibouti, the President of the Chamber of Commerce of Djibouti, and the President of the Authority of Ports and Free Zones. The Republic of Djibouti has achieved remarkable results in the Global Doing Business 2019 ranking with 55 places. Djibouti is in the list of the 10 most reforming countries in the world for the second year in a row. This has been made possible thanks to the strong commitment of the national authorities and the efforts made by the competent institutions. Continuing and strengthening reforms is a priority of the head of state to ensure the improvement of the business climate in our country and thus promote entrepreneurship in the private sector, which remains the engine of socio-economic development.
As for the Minister of the Presidency in charge of investment, indicated that attracting a wealthy public investors who is doing a good job will create a better life and jobs, and will be able to address the needs of our citizens, and will further strengthen the gap in the way we live with the 4 years we have been. The new progress made on the improvement of investment in business improvement policy. This is what we do, and the culture of our creative conference of our nationals is also based on the national work of the International Standard of Facilitating the Country's Affairs and report. The report is based on 2013 budget report, confirming that it has 10 years history of Djibouti in the globalization process. The ceremony of signing a financing agreement on local development project support for gender and support for civil society has been presided over by the Minister of Finance, Mr. Ilyas Musaudawali. Details in this report.
Minister of Finance, Mr. Ilyas Musaudawali, has signed a financing agreement on local development projects, support for gender, support for civil society. This 12 million euros funding will be used for the local development and decentralization support program, civil society and support projects, and the empowerment and the protection of women's rights.
Ces signatures d'aujourd'hui
In his opening remarks, the ambassador of the European Union, Mr. Kalouch, thanked partners like UNICEF and others. He stressed that this convention reflects the very good relation of cooperation between the European Union and the Republic of Djibouti. Are these 23 million euros the last tranche in Djibouti under the 11th European Development Fund?
Ces conventions que nous verrons aujourd'hui.
Finance Minister Ilyas Musaudawali stressed the importance of regions, civil society and women whose empowerment can use this envelope for the development of economic growth at the regional level. That women can be important for actors for economic growth too. The overall objective of this envelope will be to promote inclusive local development in the interior regions through the strengthening of the local governance system. In other words, a capacity building approach at the central level. This involves strengthening the capacities of key institutions in terms of steering, framing, and control. At the territorial level, this meaning strengthening the capacity of the regional councils in terms of objective management.
The Minister of Defense for Relations with the Parliament, Mr. Ali Hassan Bahdon, received this afternoon the courtesy visit of the Ambassador of the Russian Federation to Djibouti, Mr. Sergei Kuznetsov. The ambassador was accompanied by the Consul of the Russian Embassy, Sir Philip Popovich Victor, and the Embassy Business Attaché, Sir Affairs, Sir Roman Pirgos. Saw the participation of the Chief of Cabinet of the Minister of the Commander Ilyas Abdullahi Geli and the technical advisor of the Minister. After the words of welcome, the two men discussed the state of Djibouti-Russian bilateral relations, including cooperation in the field of defense, and they talk about ways and means to promote them. Defense Minister for Parliamentary Relations, Ali Hassan Bahdon, also highlighted the remarkable work being done by the Ambassador of the Russian Federation to strengthen relations of friendship and cooperation between the two countries. An important delegation led by the Minister of Interior, Hassan Umar Mohammed, and the Minister of Labor and Reform of the administration, Hassan Idris Samiri, in collaboration with the IOM, is currently in Ottawa, Canada since February the 4th. The objective of this mission was to promote the Djiboutian workforce and to share the challenges posed by mixed migration in the Horn of Africa, in particular in Djibouti. The meeting was also intended to raise Canada's awareness of the importance of developing an active labor migration policy and of exploring ways and means to establish regular relations with this country. In order to provide employment opportunity for young people in Djibouti, the meeting was held at the Department of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship in the presence of the Canadian Minister of Immigration, Hassan Hussein, and members of the Ahmed Hussein and members of his cabinet. The members of the following Djiboutian delegation were present at this meeting: the Director of Djiboutian National Police, Colonel Abdullahi Abdi Farah, and the Mr. Hussein Poulier, the IOM representative in Djibouti, Lalani Versami, and in the presence of the Ambassador of Djibouti accredited to Canada, Mohamed Siad Douali. The several actions will follow this high-level mission, including the setting up of a technical monitoring committee to implement a labor migration strategy with Djibouti, particularly within the framework of existing immigration programs such as the Francophone Mobility launched in 2016, as noted by the Canadian minister. Demand remains important in Canada. Quebec, for example, currently needs 100,000 economic migrants, and these are equally important in other 9 provinces of the country. The new ambassador of Turkey accredited to the Republic of Djibouti has been received this morning by the Minister of Energy in charge of natural resources. Explanations.
Energy in charge of natural resources, Mr. Yunus Ali Gedi received this morning in his cabinet the new ambassador of Turkey accredited to the Republic of Djibouti, Mr. Levent Sahinkaya. The meeting took place in the presence of Secretary General Mohamed Kile Wais. After having welcomed and a pleasant stay in our country to who is host, the minister then thanked the Turkish government for their collaboration. Discussion between the two sides focused on strengthening the partnership and defining a common vision to support the development of the energy sector in Djibouti.
A delegation led by the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Akilu Haile Mikael, and accompanied by Ambassador Mohammed Hassan, held a meeting in the cabinet of the Minister of Interior. The delegation was received by the Secretary General of the Ministry of the Interior, Mr. Siraj Omar Abdul Qadir, in the presence of the Executive Secretary of National Office of Assistance to Refugees and Disasters, Mr. Hussein Hassan Dirar. Discussions focused on the migration management policy, and in particular on the sinking of the migrant boats that caused several victims and disappeared off the coast of Djibouti near the coastal town of Obok, and during which the government has made significant efforts in the search of survivors and relief assistance to the shipwreck. The closing ceremony of the exercise Cutlass Express 2019 took place today at the Djibouti Navy. The ceremony was chaired by the Commander Ahmed Tahir, Commander of the Navy, and Commander Mohammed Adawa, Second in Command of Djibouti Coast Guards. The aim of Cutlass Express 2019 is to standardize procedures for intervention at sea at both national and regional levels. This exercise saw the participation of sailors from our neighboring countries, Comoros, Kenya, Uganda, Somalia, under the supervision of the U.S. Navy. This training, which lasted 10 days, was facilitated by instructors of the Dutch and Indo Navy. In order to promote the activities of the CDC, the Tijara Community Development Center Directorate organized an Open Door Day on Monday, February 4th in Main Kotyar. The event was attended by the various officials, including the representative of the Regional Council, the services of the concentrated the civil society, actors, the parents of the students, the teachers, and the partner associations. The objective of the day was the exhibition of our various existing tools within the CDC. It was indeed to present to our guests the materials such as computer equipment, sewing machines, weightlifting machines, board games, table tennis, library, petanque, one serving, cinemas, projection of children's movies, room layout for meeting as well. In addition, the managers who attended the exhibition were enthusiastic about the presentation and quality of the exhibited products. And now moving on to the international news, Saudi Arabia announces the launch of its first communication satellite. Explanations.
We announced on Tuesday the launch of its first satellite for communications from the French Guiana Space Center, so the press agencies reported. Khalid bin Abdulaziz Al Falih, Minister of Energy, Industry and Mineral Resources, said the launch aims at localizing strategic technologies and enabling Saudi young people to work with state-of-the-art technologies in the field of satellite development and manufacturing. The satellite is one aims to employ advanced pen capacity to enable space communications all at ultra-fast speeds and will offer multiple applications including broadband telecommunications and secure communication for remote and disaster striking area.
In Afghanistan, United States of America proposes to halve their quota. More with Hind Ibrahim.
State has promised them to withdraw half of its troops from Afghanistan by April as part of peace process in the conflict-stricken country. Citing the Russian area news agency Reuters quoted the Taliban group, which has a delegation in Moscow for talks with Afghan opposition politicians, as making the assertion on Wednesday without offering more information. The Taliban have been holding bilateral talks with the US without the participation of the Afghan government. Kabul has said any ultimate decision for peace in Afghanistan but must include Kabul. It has also directed the Moscow meeting.
This is it for this edition. Thank you for your attention. Have a wonderful evening.